And don't forget, I do have a couple questions about whether you wear the watch on the left or the right hand. And the left hand is better. You actually absorb energy through the left hand and actually share it or put it out through your right hand. So I think I have tried to have some pictures removed that were put up. Just somebody didn't know when they were taking the videos that it was supposed to go on the left hand. Now, once in a while, people will say, well, can I put it on my kid's ankle? Or women, have worn it in their bras before, but do be careful with that because it can be broken easily and sweat can actually damage it because there is an open speaker on the back that moisture can be absorbed through. So do be careful with that, but please wear it as much as you can. And since we're going to be talking about kids today, I think this is a fun way to explain it. All of these frequency sets, about 850 of them, have 30 different frequencies in it. Most of them do, not every single one. And it's like a song. And so sometimes your body hums along with the song that you hear on the radio. And sometimes it's kind of, your body or your mind or your, emotion doesn't like it at that particular time. And so that's what these are. These are songs. And so if there's one that's a little bit grating on your nerves, your body tunes it out, lets it go, or you can click it and go on to the next if you decide that it's might be irritating your system. But normally I haven't heard too many of those ideas. And then again, I've tried to make playlists. Now, one that we're working with today is a playlist for kids, but there's lots of ideas in the watch in other folders that you could be using also. So the double arrow set will play through the whole playlist and try to make it easy for you. And believe me, it is way easier than sorting and sifting through 850 ideas alphabetically on the watch. And just one more quick reminder, 8 minutes is just the frequency by itself. If that's the number that you're seeing when you start a frequency playing. If it's 15 minutes, it's the frequency plus inflammation, pain, and trauma, because I'm seeing that that's the most important frequency set from my experience. Somebody else might think something different. But if you see a 30 or 45 minutes and, like some of the COVID frequencies are an hour and 5 minutes maybe, that means that there have been several frequency sets linked together so that you don't have to do them. And that way you can put them on a loop and continue them all night long if that's of interest to you. So, big breath here. We're finally ready for looking at some of the ideas with kids. And so I've got 2 different columns, but there's about 32 ideas all together, and it covers a range of things. And again, basically, you would be probably adding some things as you work with these from the larger folders, if that's of interest to you. But we're going to go through a couple of ideas here and see where we can combine and add. And maybe Courtney will share some other ideas because she is using it with her kids. So alphabetically, the first thing we see is acne. I don't know if, so just jump in, Courtney.
My kids are too young to have had that, so I don't have any experience with that one, but you can keep going.
I'm just saying, feel free to jump in. So anyway, obviously, a teenager is going to do anything they can for working with acne. And they can get into some embarrassing situations, as you can see. So don't you think just wearing a watch that is very hidden and nobody even knows what's playing on it would be a very interesting tool for a teenager that really has some acne problems? Now, don't forget, you could also go to skin. You could also play bacteria and other pathogens because there are so many things behind the problems with acne and some of the very expensive products that people are using for acne are not addressing different pathogens. So play the acne on the watch, but also go to other areas also. And if you've got a teenager that's doing that, they're going to be able to sort and sift and use some common sense. But you might have to share with them or teach them, hey, a lot of times it's bacteria that's causing their problems. And, hey, I'm not sure that you want to put all of these chemicals on your face. What about something natural? Okay. Mm-hmm. So many ideas that you could use for the acne. Any other ideas, as the watch that you
for acne or for kids?
For acne. I think we kind of covered it.
Yeah.
Somebody might think of something different, but
Well, I mean, you could always do hormone balance.
hey, see, I knew you'd think of another idea. So, oh, wow, that's such a big one. I didn't even think to put it in there.
Yeah.
So, so these kids are going through lots of hormones. So we have hormones in the women's folder and hormones in the men's folder. So would be a very good idea. Great addition there. Just love the slowness of my computer today. I have to say I love it, and then it's just going to start working better.
Yeah.
So the next ideas alphabetically as we go through kids are ideas about colds and coughs and things like that. So we've got kind of a whole list of things. There's asthma combo on the kit in the kids folder. There's colic, there's cough, Coxsackie, croup 1, croup 2, cytomegalovirus, pertussis, sore throat combo, staph and strep, tonsillitis. Now, you can dig deeper if you need to. If some of these ideas do not work, you can go outside this kids folder, obviously. And again, go back to bacteria, go back to viruses. There's a deeper folder for colds and cough, I guess, in the self-care folder.
There's like a cough lingering. I've done that one for my kids before. Like one night when my son was coughing a lot, I did cough lingering and he like stopped coughing so much in the middle of the night. And then lymph and detox, that's one that I know that you wouldn't think of that for cough and cold, but we love that one, me and my boys. And so I've done that one a lot for cough and cold, and it works really well.
Perfect. So those are great additions. So you get to jump in on this one, Mama.
Oh, okay. So that's my son Samuel. He just wore it last week. He did 2 weeks ago. It was a couple, I don't know, 2 or 3 weeks ago. It was a few weeks ago, within the past month. He had a sore throat and a cold. And so I just did, what I usually do. I gave him honey and vitamin C, and then I just did sore throat combo because that's what seemed to work. And he didn't complain of a sore throat at all anymore. His sore throat was better. And I did a homeopathic remedy for like the drainage. And so, yeah, so that was it. And then the next week, his brother, my youngest, had a sore throat, and his ended up being strep throat. And so for him, I did staph and strep. And yeah, so.
And I think the main idea here is that she's saving medications from her children. They're not using those. I mean, some people are very okay, I guess is the word. They will use a lot of medications on children, and they'll be going back and forth to the doctor and get all kinds of antibacterials and antibiotics, and the list could be endless, that children are being are using for working with something that could be without medication on the WAVwatch. It could be very helpful that way. And so I think everybody in this group is very aware of wanting to keep extra toxins out of your body, so it's very, very important. And I actually don't know that I have to remind you that it's very important to play through the detox folders once in a while. So I'll let you go check who came. We just had somebody come in.
Oh, it was probably Pam. But I can go check.
Yeah. Okay. So we also have a specific set for the respiratory syncytial virus and respiratory distress. And we basically have that covered. This is RSV, and the most common cause of bronchial problems in children, and pneumonia, infection in the lungs. So this works with children that are younger than 1 year old. And this is very important to remember that this actually is in our folder for kids, because this is more a virus that affects kids a lot more. So,
hey, Linda.
Yes.
This is Libby. I just wanted to make a comment that RSV is rampant. It was on the national news that schools are being hit with RSV. And I have all kinds of friends that said their kids, their grandkids are having RSV. it is associated with a very high fever, and that usually runs for several days. So this is really very invaluable. Grandparents and parents need to have this noted because I was just talking to a friend in Ohio this morning, and she said, grandchild had it and took her to the doctor. The doctor tested for everything else but RSV. And that was
Wow.
crazy to me because she had all the classic symptoms, and she had a fever of 104 for 5 days. So this is just a very important one that I wanted people to note, that, if your child's starting to run a fever, get that RSV frequency going for sure.
I'm so glad you mentioned that. You have grandchildren closer than I do, and you're, closer to maybe the school system too. I don't know if Courtney's heard any of that around here, but what a great point. So, if anybody has a point to add while we're going through that, that's just fine. But Libby, that was an excellent one. So we do have a frequency for fever and for inflammation also that could be added or played in that. So it is important to really remember, and that was such a great point to put in because schools have been closing. And it seems like my little hometown in Colorado has actually closed for their football season. They were only a 6-man team to start with, and then some of their kids got sick. And it may or may not have been from this, but they closed or they, stopped their whole football season. And that's happening over and over again. And that idea even made the national news. So very interesting. Thank you. That was a great point, Libby. Anybody else? Any grandkids in different parts of the country that are having trouble with the RSV?
Linda, I'm not sure exactly what it is, but there's a lot of discussion of how the vaccine, is bringing about a lot of these things. So, what may be immunity with this vaccine?
Yes, great point. And we have to, tread lightly on that, but don't forget that in the detox folder, the very last one, viral detox, is my attempt in my configuration of frequencies to help us with just what, is it Glinda? What you were talking about, so very important to make sure that you are detoxing your children sometimes and getting some of those out because they've been exposed to a lot of things. And then, of course, we're not trying to be political or anything, but we do know that the CDC has made a big ruling on children and shots lately. So we'll see where that takes us and how many.
And speaking of children, we're not saying to go against medical advice or go against what the doctor says. You can do frequencies along with other things, whether that be natural or an antibiotic or something else. So like when I did sore throat combo for my son, it just seemed to work. His sore throat went away. And then for my son that had strep, I did the staph and strep on the watch, and I obviously did other things too. I didn't just do the watch. So it works really well with other things too. But like I ended up getting the sore throat, the strep sore throat, but I just did the watch because I had to move on with my life. I couldn't, just lay in bed all day. I had other things to do. So I just did the watch. I just kept it on repeat and had my other one charging. So when that died, I just, and it actually was funny because I got pain. I got pain in my lymph nodes and like this burning sensation in my throat when I was doing the watch. And I just thought, that's so weird. And then I had to take the watch off for something. And so I took the watch off. And then when I put the watch back on, I realized I got that again. And I thought, that is so weird. I don't know why, but I felt better. It didn't last long. The sore throat only lasted for a day or two.
And to me, that would be telling me that it's clearing something out.
I know. That's what I
Yeah.
thought. I thought maybe
Yeah.
I have a staph or strep infection in my body, like a little bit, like how they linger, So I thought that was kind of cool.
Yeah. So a lot of times if you have some pain, now I did find a picture. And I know a lot of us here are grandparents rather than parents, but hopefully we've got some of both. And so I did find this picture. If you look down your children's throats, these are some ideas. So if you are running some frequencies and you see more swollen uvula, the red swollen tonsils, white spots, throat redness, gray furry tongue, that's a little bit more bacterial, which I thought that was good. I did not have that drawing to look at when my kids were growing up 40 some years ago. So I thought that was wonderful. And then if it was viral, it's red swollen tonsils and just a throat with redness on it.
Yeah.
So then you would know which way to actually add some more additional frequencies off the WAVwatch or whatever whatever you have on hand that you would like to work with for that, whether bacterial or viral, or go to the doctor, whatever your choices are. But I thought that was just wonderful. So you can find that on the internet without too much trouble. Now, we also have frequencies for staph and strep. And they're basically saying that the first signs are red throat, the swollen tonsils, white patches, just what we talked about with the imaging. It does say a fever and pain that gets worse while swallowing could be symptoms. But I know people that do not have those symptoms and they've still been diagnosed as staph or strep. So that's a little bit crazy to me. Do you have an example of that?
Of not having those symptoms of being
Yeah.
diagnosed?
I was thinking, must have been somebody else that was telling me that. And I know my grandchildren's in Tennessee, they don't have those symptoms, but their parents have learned anytime they get kind of grouchy, or really fatigued, that they are starting to get worn down. And a lot of times they'll take them to their doctor and it is staph or strep. So
Interesting.
different symptoms, maybe in some different areas. I'm not a doctor. I'm not telling you that, but just because it doesn't fall into this symptom pattern does not mean that it isn't staph or strep, according to the medical community.
And I have a friend whose son got strep, and then after that, like a few weeks later, was never the same again. He declined, like just started to, what's that word, digress. So he started to have behavioral issues, issues in school with concentration. And, it was a year, and I think maybe even, I can't remember what it was, but he had some anger issues and just started to decline, and social issues. And then, so he just was never the same after that. Like I know some people whose children were never the same after getting vaccinated. Well, he was never the same after strep. And so then after about a year of having some health problems and stuff, they found out it was pandas. And so pandas is apparently a strep infection that doesn't fully clear up. And so, if you know anybody with pandas or anything, this would be something to obviously add to whatever you're doing to clear up the infection. It's real simple.
And
To
just run
just
it as,
slap a watch
yeah.
on.
as a self-care idea. And the word preventive is actually a no-no. We can't say that too much, but just to think common sense. And staph and strep can be very damaging long-term. So they do say that dogs are carriers of strep sometimes in your family, or somebody could be a carrier of it. And I thought that was really interesting about the animals being carriers. And then also some people, when they're younger, do have these staph or strep set into their system, and it connects later with arthritis, connects with all kinds of pain. So that is something that doesn't necessarily clear out of your system very easily at all. So this would be a great idea to work with anybody when we've been around these kind of problems.
Yeah.
And don't forget, you can also go over to the self-care, the sore throat idea, and there's more staph and strep frequencies in there. So run all of those. Yeah, I didn't know about this. Have you used this for your kids at all?
I've used infection. I've definitely used infection when they've had like bug bites, things that were that were like a little infected. I haven't done fever or antiseptic. That's kind of interesting.
Right. So those were in there too. So maybe if your child, falls and scrapes their knee, and we've got frequencies for antiseptic. There are some definitely natural ideas that you could do. What do you do naturally when your kids cut themselves or scrape themselves? Anything?
I do oils. Or like a little homemade salve.
See?
Or I do a drying salve with charcoal and water, or something like that.
Okay. But we also have the antiseptic 1, antiseptic 2.
I've never thought to use the WAVwatch.
And I don't have any testimonies from that. So we'll get.
I'll be a testimony. I'll try it next time.
We'll get Courtney working on that. And then I've already mentioned the fever and the infection idea too. So that would be a good one to, kind of remember if that's something of interest to you. And, sometimes your children may be so active that they're not, it might not be an area, just so what, they scrape their knee, they're going to be off running and playing again. And that would not be appropriate to be wearing the WAVwatch that particular time for them. You do need to find a quiet time actually for them to rent it or wear the WAVwatch, and then maybe bedtime also.
Yeah.
When do you use the WAVwatch for your kids?
Oh, I usually just do it when they go to bed. So
That's the best
I'll put it on them and I'll put it on repeat. So whether we're doing it for parasites or a detox or something, I'll just put it on repeat, and they'll wear it all night.
Okay. And you're using it for the
And
four
they've been
setting?
when they've been sick, like when my son did the sore throat combo, or when we've done like the cold ones, if they have a cold. If they're sick and they're in bed or they're watching TV, then I'll put a watch on them. But I don't really have them do it when they're playing or anything.
Yeah.
They've never done that.
You wouldn't want to do that. That's you got to take care of that WAVwatch. It is a little bit particular, needs to be taken care of. So I never had this problem with my two sons when they were growing up. And that was actually very hard to see, this imaging. And some of the images were worse. Have you had any struggles with this?
I've never seen that.
So I am so glad that the WAVwatch does have a frequency for this, because, it says it's a reddish sore that oozes and then forms a honey-colored crest. And it's mostly around the nose and mouth in infants and children. So I can't imagine what the medical community would do for this, and imagine, rubbing some kind of a medication around their mouths, if that would be really super friendly for their immune system. So that might be one to really remember in a younger child, that the WAVwatch does have a set frequency for that. And I'm sorry, I'm not a child specialist. I didn't look this up. I don't know. I'm assuming this is bacterial, but I guess it could be viral. So those would be some other ideas that you could also play within that realm if you had a child that was having some of these problems. So now we have kind of a combination of a few more ideas for ADD, ADHD, Asperger's syndrome, autistic disorders, nonverbal learning. And then there's a few more ideas tucked into emotions. They're a little bit more, seems like they're a little bit more for the adults, but not necessarily. There's OCD, there's Tourette's syndrome, and a few more things like that. Mental clarification, some things like that. I can't think of what else I was wanting to mention. And if you have somebody that's struggling with these ideas, that would be a really good time to maybe go through and actually set up a particular playlist just for that particular problem. And that way they could be looping through that and playing that playlist. So these are some signs and symptoms that we're seeing with children that have these problems. And as you know, our statistics are getting worse and worse. And, I'm thinking I saw some statistics that they expect, autistic disorders to be 1 in every 5 boys within just a few years. Somebody can jump in if they know the correct statistic, but I did remember reading that. I don't know if it's within 10 years or 12 years, but within just a short period of time, about 1 in every 5 boys is expected to be autistic. So, all of these troubles happen. I do not have huge amounts of testimonies on this. I just know that adults have given me suggestions for this. And even myself, somebody told me if I was awake in the middle of the night and my mind was going crazy, which is what it does sometimes, I got too much to do. They told me that their favorite thing to play was the OCD. So I woke up one night in the middle of the night. That's what I did. And I did go back to sleep. So I do have adult testimonies on the ADD, the ADHD, and definitely the Tourette's syndrome. One lady was hearing voices, and when she played the Tourette's syndrome, those voices went away. So I would love to have some testimonies from some children and some kids if anybody's working with that. So of course, if you have a child, if you have a grandchild, if you know somebody and you're reaching out to help that child in any way, shape, or form, do not forget to run the detox frequencies. I didn't keep putting that in. I just want to remind you the detox frequencies. There's a heavy metal detox, several of those different detoxes. There's chemical detox. There's detoxes for mental and emotions in that detox. So I would not hesitate to play every single one of those ideas. And then you top it off with EMFs and radiation that we're all exposed to all the time, no matter what our age. So to me, play through the whole detox folder at least once a week, maybe more if you can get it done. And especially on a child that's having some of these symptoms, that would be an idea.
Yeah.
Any feedback? And
I
Can I say
haven't. I
something?
think it's great. Yeah.
Can I say something?
certainly can.
Uh, I am listening to Dr. Lee Merritt. You can go to our web channel or you can get her on Telegram, who, in my view, is at the cutting edge of awareness as to what the truth is going on with our bodies. And at the top of the list is poison. So all these conditions we're talking about are where the body's unable to handle the poisons as a result of metabolism or that are poisons in the food or air or whatever. And the number one poison is EMF. And that's why this watch is so great. Your detoxification protocol is excellent, but EMF and radiation poisoning is a big deal. I would encourage anyone to listen to Dr. Lee Merritt, start listening to her talks, and get educated on how to view sickness and disease as opposed to always trying to treat the symptoms. So Dr. Lee Merritt, MD, she's a great treasure. That's all I have to say.
Perfect. Thank you
Thanks.
so much, Virgil. I always love everybody's testimony and input. It's very important. So, gosh, how many kids have you been around that need help with bones?
A lot.
Have your
Have
Two-
my kids, have I done? I've done, I've never tried the bone regeneration. I've done inflammation, pain, and trauma when they've had owies and I need to put arnica on them. I've done the watch for inflammation, pain, and trauma.
Okay, so we have so many children that are having trouble with their bones, it seems like. And, you know, we've talked about this before. To me, it goes back to minerals, the lack of all the minerals. We are just not getting everything in our food. The list goes on. And I'm not necessarily here to talk about that. But the one hole that I did see in the WAVwatch from the first time that I developed it was in bones. And a chiropractor was nice enough to share that with me. So I did add about 5 more folders for bones. And if you have one of the newer watches, it will have about 7 folders in it. And I do apologize. Not every WAVwatch is going to have that many, but every single one of them have the bone trauma and regeneration, the most important one. And I was just playing that last night for my teeth, you know, and
Oh,
inflammation,
that's a
pain,
good
and trauma, you know, so those two cover it all, but there's a few more frequencies on some of the newer watches that just have for a bone infection, you know, and osteoporosis, that kind of thing. So osteomyelitis. But again, those would be the latest watches, but you're only missing 3 frequencies, 3 or 4. It's not that I put 500 more frequencies on there. I just saw a little bit of a hole and wanted to work on that. Lynn, go ahead.
Linda, this isn't for kids, but it is about bone trauma and regeneration. When back in February, I tripped and fell in a grocery store and just slammed down on my whole left side. And I used initially the first couple of days inflammation, pain, and trauma. And then I went to bone trauma and regeneration because I tore up my shoulder, my elbow, my knee, and it was just tremendously helpful. So, you know, I've lived that, and these are wonderful frequencies. I wouldn't live without the bone trauma and regeneration one. It's just
Good. Wow. That's a great testimony. And, you know, just share them as we go along today. I think maybe a little bit different format. Sometimes we share ideas at the end, but it was great. I've got Courtney here. We're just visiting and talking. So appreciate that comment. Anybody else have any bone trauma testimonies or anything they want to share? Okay, so now we're going to go on to bedwetting. All right, there are a couple different kinds of bedwetting, and I have actually had, again, more adult testimonies on this, you know, but if we have a lot of daytime bedwetting, that actually tells us that there's quite a few different problems going on. At night, when it's just a night bedwetting and it's type 1 bedwetting, that could be more just the body's ability to hold urine over the night. But when we have some of these other problems, these are all covered on the WAVwatch if we just knew about them. And again, I didn't have this when my kids were growing up because I did have somebody that had one of my boys had some problems, and I didn't have the WAVwatch to help him, so we worked through it and everything worked out fine. But some children, it is a longer time frame for them to work on these problems with bedwetting. So of course, UTIs. So there is a frequency for bedwetting just in the children's or kids section, but then that frequency for the urinary tract infections, there's several in that area going back, and those could be covered in bladder, and they are in the organ system. Another problem is diabetes. So we have tons of frequencies for diabetes and for pancreas. So if you know a child that the bedwetting singular code is not helpful, work a little bit deeper and see if you can work with some of those ideas. Now, once in a while, there's a structural anatomical problem, and that may not help at all. Incontinence is another problem that they could have, and that is covered in the bladder area. I guess I hadn't really thought about sleep apnea. Did you know about that one being connected?
I didn't know it was connected
Yeah.
to bedwetting. I knew constipation was connected to bedwetting.
Yeah. So evidently, lower oxygen intake has caused problems with tonsils and adenoids blocked, and then also possibly connected with the bedwetting. So there is a frequency for sleep apnea. And I have had a couple of gentlemen now, but one in particular said that his sleep apnea machine, his CPAP was broken, and he saw the sleep apnea code on here and just tried it. And I tried to impress on him, make sure you check this out with your doctor, so it's all good. And he has been really sold on using the sleep apnea. And his wife was in my other example, somebody's wife was scared to death when she woke up in the middle of the night and her husband wasn't having trouble breathing, but he was a veteran, and she said that has really improved on the sleep apnea. So that was exciting. So I would think that with a child that might be something worth your time to do. Now, our nervous system can also cause some problems, neurologically. I do not really have a lot of frequencies for neurological problems, maybe in the brain folder, but not a lot that I could think of. Can you think of anything that would fit in there that we could cover?
I know that there's a spot that says nervous system disorders, but I didn't really know much about the nervous system disorders. I don't know.
Yeah. I think, yes. So there is that. Thank you I couldn't even think where I had anything that would work. And then as we go to the last one, that could be connected with bedwetting, emotional problems. So that covers the gamut. So don't forget that we have some frequencies. And I said that lightly, 10% of our frequencies, 85 different frequencies, cover emotional problems. And that's because that's one of the largest things that we are not working with. Or if people are working with emotional problems, sometimes they are tied to some of the prescriptions and the drugs, and problems can be tied, one drug kind of leads to another, drug leads to another. And people, especially you that are on the program today, are not into that. We're not wanting to do as many of those solutions that we might have been given by the medical department. I'm trying to phrase this very tactfully here, but try the emotional problems. And I think somebody's got a testimony. I'm not sure if Lena's still on today. Do you have any kind of a testimony about your granddaughter? And it may not even be in the right category here, but anybody want to share? Yes, Lena.
Yes, my granddaughter was struggling with anxiety, and so it affected her weight. She was like 10 years old, weighed only 48 pounds, and anyway, she would not eat. All she would eat was cracker, just things that were safe in her mind. And we started using the watch on her for anxiety, and it's changed her life. and she is now eating
Aw.
normally and is at the correct weight for her age. And so we're very grateful for the watch.
Oh my
That's
goodness.
sweet.
Do you know how long she had to wear it, or does she still wear it?
Um, if they travel, she might wear it, but she doesn't wear it on a regular basis. Just whenever, something new is going to happen, she might get anxious again. And so she'll just wear it, for
Oh,
the time that she's at the event or whatever. But yeah, it's really helped her.
oh, I really appreciate that information because so many of us, with children may be in that area where we're not sure whether we should be going to the doctor and get some medication or whether there is even something else that might be helpful for someone.
Yeah.
And so this is really spreading the word that, hey, emotions can trigger so many types of health problems in adults and our kids. And so we need to be working actually younger and younger on our kids' emotions. And gosh, who can say what's gone on in the last 2 years with our children and their emotions?
Yeah.
So this is a huge topic, is emotions for children, and that all of those emotions aren't repeated again in the kids folder. You'll have to go to the emotion folder. And I really like the Bach remedies. I don't know if everybody's been on when I've talked about Bach remedies before, but those are actually made from plants originally from Dr. Edward Bach, who in the 1920s, 30s England. I think his favorite statement that he said was that God gave us all kinds of remedies in nature for our physical ailments. So Dr. Bach knew that God gave us something for our emotional problems. And that was his life's work. And they said basically that he could kind of touch a plant or put his hand over a plant and kind of intuitively tell us what problem what emotion that plant would help. So those are the Bach remedies, and those are represented on the WAVwatch in an emotional folder. So if you would play those through once in a while from start to finish, there's 38 of them in one list, and there's 10 that are combined in another list. Those cover the gamut of things from emotions. And sometimes we may say one emotion and it actually is something completely different. So again, my idea for children might be to play through all of them. So any other
That's
ideas
really
on
cool.
that?
I didn't know you. I just have heard of the Bach remedies. I didn't know enough about them. So that's really okay.
Yeah. So those
Try.
were,
I'd like to say
yes. So
something.
yes.
I have a friend who's been on antidepressants for 30 years, heavy meds. We talk every day. She's one of my best gal friends. She called me, she said, Virgil,
Pal friends.
gal friends as opposed to girlfriend. Okay.
Yeah, I like it. I like it. I'm gonna take it. I'm gonna take that term. Thank you.
And I haven't seen her in 20 years, but we talk almost every day. And she said, Virgil, I'm having a breakdown. I said, well, have you put on the WAVwatch? She says, well, what do I put on it? I said, panic attack. And she put it on and she called me back. She says, Virgil, I'm doing better. I said, really? Okay. And then she called me back the next day. She said, thank you so much, Virgil, for reminding me to use it. The emotions do work. The WAVwatch
thank you.
does work. And even I will sometimes put on panic attack when I'm fearful of getting bad news. Support mechanism. It's what it is. It's like getting a transfusion of additional energy that I just can't generate on myself.
That's a great explanation.
I
Yeah.
love that.
Yeah.
But that was just 2 days ago. This is not anecdotal. This is really, in fact, did happen. And I'll call her and I'll say, well, are you using your watch? No. She'll do all kinds of things. I said, do you detox? No. But we all are dealing with the death wish. So the WAVwatch helps us keep the death wish a little bit further at bay. That's my view.
Oh, lovely.
I'm out of here.
Thank you. So, just a reminder, the emotional frequencies, the Bach remedies are very, very soft. And just because you can't just hear them doesn't mean that your body isn't feeling them. That's the whole idea of the WAVwatch, is for your body to absorb that frequency and feel it. It doesn't have to be ringing in our ears. And so, I've had somebody say, oh, they can't work. I can't even hear them. It's like, that's the purpose. That's the way the WAVwatch is made. So do play through those frequencies and be aware that they are just a little bit softer. So now we have a new picture. I thought maybe we should change from the bedwetting screen.
We have Paul.
Yeah. So
That's my youngest. I've used the WaveWatch on him actually multiple times. He one night he had an earache and I did what we usually do, like colloidal silver and garlic and things like that, and essential oils, and it didn't go away. And he was crying, and we were up for over an hour, and he was, in pain. And I just wanted to, I felt so bad because my baby was in pain and I tried everything and I'm just like, oh gosh, I don't know what to do. So I was just holding him, trying to get him to fall asleep and rocking him in the rocking chair. And then I thought, oh, the WaveWatch. So I put the WaveWatch on, and it was ear infections fungal. It was in the kid folder. And I put that on him, and within, like, I don't know, 10 or 15 minutes, he was fine. And he fell asleep and his ear didn't hurt anymore. And so he's had a couple, like, he'll get an earache whenever he has like some drainage from a cold or something. And so he's had that happen. This was at least a year ago, maybe 2 years ago when we did that. And probably a year and a half ago. Anyways, so he's had about 2 earaches since. And so the 2 times that he's got it, the first thing he says is, Mom, I need the watch. My ear hurts. So we were at a birthday party about a month ago, and he had recently had an earache. And I was talking to one of his friends, or a couple of the friends' moms. And somehow we were talking about lots of things, but she was saying, oh, I'm really weird. I do all these. And she was talking about all the health things she does. And I'm like, oh, well, I'm just as weird. I might be worse, And somehow we started talking about the WaveWatch. And Paul came over and said something while I was talking to the moms. And I said, hey, baby, tell them what I did. What did we do when you had the earache last week? And he said, oh, you just slapped the watch on me. And then they started laughing because we used the WaveWatch for things like an earache, things like that. So I've done that. I've done parasites on him. Some of the detox things because we just live in a toxic world. And so, yeah, so I've done the WaveWatch on him probably the most. He likes to put it on when he sleeps. So, yeah.
perfect. And I'm so glad you said parasites because I did put that into the kids folder. There are so many problems with parasites around the world. Everybody has parasites. So I hope that you would just remember if you're around a child that's having some sickness, parasites can cause allergies. And we don't even really think of that, And so many kids today are having allergies and they have the same symptoms. You have a parasite, you could have an allergy problem, vice versa. The symptoms are so similar. So kind of pair those 2 ideas together. And then cleaning the liver a little bit if you do have some allergies. But the parasites specifically are something that should be run completely from start to finish on that particular folder. And then it's huge. So I've kept track. I've tested about 100 people with my biomeridian screening. And out of that 100 that I really kept a very specific track of, 42 people out of 100 had parasites as their worst problem. So are our kids going to be any better? No, they could even be worse, and they're closer to animals. Animals crawl all over a little kid, so they're going to be picking up some strange parasites sometimes, So that would be one that I did not put in the kids folder, but I hope that you would run that on your own if you're around a kid anytime that you have the chance to do that.
Yeah. So Paul, he got in bed with me one night. This was, I don't know, maybe 8 months ago, or a year ago. He got in bed with me and he started grinding his teeth. I thought, oh my gosh, that's so weird. And then I went back to bed. I thought that was odd that he was grinding his teeth. And then the next night he comes and hops in bed with me. He's grinding his teeth again. I'm like, seriously? So then I went and grabbed the WaveWatch because I thought parasites. So I went and grabbed the WaveWatch. I put it on Parasite Combo 1, put it on repeat, and put it on and went back to bed. And then the next night, before he even had a chance to get in bed with me, I just put it on when he went to bed. I did Parasite Combo 2, and I had that on repeat all night. And then the next night, I did Parasite Combo 3. And then that was it. I forgot about it, and he hasn't grinded his teeth since. So it was either coincidence or it was parasites. I think it was parasites, but it worked.
Yes.
So yeah.
And so we forget to say that teeth grinding, you knew that, is connected with parasites. It's huge. So I had about the 42 people that I mentioned did wear the WAVwatch for parasites in my prototype stage. And then I retested them on a system and the parasites didn't seem to show up. And that was 42 out of 42 times. So people were so, intrigued because that's not possible. I worked with this system for 15 years and that was never possible. We had to take, or I had to give people so many different types of supplements for 6, 7, 8, 9 months because every parasite has a different stage, the cyst and it just goes on and on through all of those stages. And if a person has lots of parasites, you're talking about a long treatment. But it did seem like 42 out of 42 times that there was a change and that parasites did not show back up. And people had also muscle tested a homeopathic remedy or an herbal remedy to take for parasites. And after 30 minutes of wearing the WAVwatch, they did not need that natural remedy, which was totally blowing everybody away.
Mm.
But I think the crowning idea, and I know I've talked about this before, but everybody may not have been on, but I did have a chiropractor who wishes to remain unnamed, of course, because in 6 hours, she actually had a foot-long parasite come out from her body. And she sent me a picture of this foot-long parasite that was
Wow.
gone in 6 hours. So that
Wow.
was probably the best little idea that I had because that's really impossible, I think, that quick with some of the other things. But the WAVwatch does seem to have a really good possibility of working with different pathogens in a short period of time. And we're
Yeah.
only going from testimonies. That's all we can do. I'm trying to get a couple of or a couple of studies going with the WAVwatch, but they're not completed yet. But that would be what we're looking at, is trying to document in a little bit different way.
Yeah.
Okay,
I'd
so
like to add something.
yes.
Okay. Everyone's talking about symptomology and remediation of symptoms. What I found, because I've been dowsing and muscle testing for 40 years, when I use the WAVwatch or any energetic device, my body requires minerals for it to work well. After using the WAVwatch, I find that it works much better if I have sufficient amounts of trace minerals and magnesium especially. I would encourage you with your children to find a way to get magnesium into them. I happen to I'm not paid for this. You can get Mother Earth minerals on Amazon, ionic, you can give it to them in water or juice, no taste. Get those magnesium levels up. All the metabolic pathways work as with magnesium better. So minerals and greens, super green things, and minerals and magnesium. Bring that into your protocol and the WAVwatch will work better for everything. That's my experience.
That is so good to remind us of that, Virgil. And then we also suggest now maybe starting on some hydrogen water. There are some new testimonies and studies showing that hydrogen water can actually make frequencies work better too. So the salt is huge. And, there's 3 different kinds of salt that I suggest. And I just love your testimony on that, Virgil. Thank you so much. Anybody have any testimonies with working with the salt and the WAVwatch? Can you tell that it goes hand in hand?
I just wanted to add the Mother Earth ionic minerals, particularly the magnesium. It's the best thing since sliced bread. Yes, it makes the WAVwatch and any energetic work better. We use it in our house. We've given it to friends. We give it to our grown kids. Tasteless, odorless, goes in absolutely at an angstrom smaller than nanoparticle level. Little squirt of that in some water and you are good to go. Every household in the world should use this stuff.
What is the I do different minerals, but and they aren't odorless and tasteless. So what is this called?
The brand is Mother Earth. You can get it on Amazon. And, like Virgil, I'm not paid for it either. We use all kinds of minerals, regular trace minerals, concentrates. We use fulvic, humic minerals. But my absolute favorite that we use every single day is that Mother Earth magnesium. A little squirt of that, a tablespoon of that in some water. You can't taste it. And it just makes everything better. It calms the nervous system, good for your cardio system, good for what ails you. Best stuff in the world. And it just will really help the way the WAVwatch works and any other energetic you're using too.
I want to add something to that. I have a friend who is a traditionalist, and for me, I'm so far out that she's had all the shots and she eats crap food and all that stuff, and she's complaining about all of her symptoms. I said, well, how about trying some magnesium? She says, oh, Virgil. I said, well, you could buy it. If you don't like it, send it back. And she took the magnesium, and it is the only thing I've ever given her or talked to her about that she stays on. And she says, Virgil, I really noticed that makes a difference. This particular magnesium is the joint. If I could smoke dope, I don't do that anymore. This would be the joint. That's it. Works.
Another unique way to say something, Virgil.
Hey, I'm not getting paid. No one's signing my paychecks anymore either, so I don't give a crap what anyone thinks.
I love it. So that's the salt, the minerals, and if we can make one inroad into some of our friends that aren't into any of this, hey, start small. Your idea with the magnesium was perfect. Surely at some point in time she'll start thinking, oh, maybe I need some more minerals. But people work at different speeds, and we all know that from our world the last 2 years.
Okay, and I want to say one more thing to add to this. Okay, when you talk about the salt, the sodium chloride, someone says, well, you're taking too much salt. I just had my test back. Everything looks good. Salt levels are normal, and I take more salt than most people do. But I'm going to encourage people to begin to listen to Dr. Robert Young, the pH Miracle Diet, or Live It, and the use of bicarbonates to get the body alkaline. Every one of these symptoms are the evidence of a body being acidic and not being able to be in balance. On my Facebook page, I posted solutions. Virgil Jackson, you can friend me if you want. Dr. Young's blogs. I cannot speak more highly. Years ago, I went to all kinds of doctors to try to get rid of GERD, all kinds of frequencies, all kinds of homeopathics, enzymes, and all that bit. And nothing worked until I started taking baking soda with my food. You say, what? Yeah, bicarbonate of soda. I'm encouraging you all to explore it. Don't believe anything I tell you. Just do the research. This with the salt, with the WAVwatch, is magic, and magnesium. I'm out of here again.
Love it. So don't forget another great tip, the salt and the baking soda. And we've talked about those, but we need to talk about it every time because we forget. I'm kind of an on again, off again baking soda person, but I take my minerals every day in different forms. And so we just need to be reminded. Does some amazing things. To go on just a little bit more.
May I say one more thing, please?
Yes. Yeah, go ahead.
I have met many people who are into organic eating, because I eat 100% organic, and they're into all kinds of alternative wellness. The way to know how much baking soda I need or salts is to simply get an alkaline strip and pee on it. And It will tell you how acidic the body is or isn't. Do you know that it is the most difficult thing for anyone with whom I've ever worked to get them to pee on a stick and see if they're acidic or alkaline? People won't do it.
Well, you could also take those strips and put underneath your tongue, so they'll do that. Maybe that'd be a starting point.
Well, anyway, I've not found that to be a useful tool, according to Dr. Young, but in any event, it is the cheapest, easiest thing to do, and yet it's the hardest. So we want to buy an expensive watch, we want to buy some supplements, but just to pee and use baking soda, people will say, I forgot, I've got busy, da, da, da. So if you try it and you forget, don't worry, you have lots of friends.
Right.
I agree. It's Janet, I agree. It's a habit. I put the strips on the toilet seat, then I take it off, do my thing. It's a very hard habit to establish, but it's really benefited me. The pH strip, I think there's a difference between the pH in the mouth and the urine, but I'm not sure.
Yes, there is. And our body has, our stomach has a different pH,
Okay.
So. Mm-hmm. So perfect. Well, we'll go on. We're getting our talk as we go throughout today, and that I like it. We're doing just really well. We also have frequencies for seizures in the kids folder, and then it is, I believe, in the brain folder also under organs. But we do have children after they've had a high fever that can have some seizures, so that might be an easy idea. And I was really touched recently. I had a medical doctor call me, and it was like at 9 or 10 at night. And I grabbed the phone when I recognized her name. And her mother had some problems with seizures and some brain activity, and she'd had sepsis, and she was in the hospital, and nothing was working correctly. And she had the WAVwatch on her mother in the hospital. And of course, nurses would come in and try to take the WAVwatch off. And so this doctor was sitting there by her mother and saying, no, this is a tool that I am using for my own mother, you know. And then, you know, she ended up buying some more WAVwatches the next week, which was totally amazing. But she was using it for seizures for her mother and for brain activity. And I hope I'm, you know, phrasing that correctly, because several things were going on. And I believe she also said a stroke. But so, you know, here we do have a medical doctor that is using it for brain. And that's kind of tells us that it's not going to hurt any of us to, you know, make some more connections with, make sure we're listening, I guess, to people that might be having trouble with their brains a little bit. And these would be several ideas. So, of course, stress is going to, they say, bring about some types of seizure, makes us higher risk. And I can see that. We've got a lot of stressed out people today. Even sleep deprivation can be connected with seizures. The flashing light patterns, I've heard of that before, but I've, you know, kind of forgotten it. So I'm sure glad I was able to find this all written up for me. And I do have the website that I got that from listed. And then again, low blood sugar, again, that can actually cause a seizure. So we need to have our children steady blood sugar. We don't want all these swings. And of course, you know, we have a candy eating fantasy fanatic problem coming up here at Halloween. And so we have more and more kids just overeating the sugar load, but it is connected with some seizures. So this is on the WAVwatch in the kids section. And I do have one testimony on this from an adult who said it definitely helped their seizures. They had been on medication, and they were able to slow their medication down. And then I think they had some trouble for about a week getting their medication, and they had the WAVwatch, and they did not have any seizures during that whole time period, where previously, even on medication, they would have 2 to 3 seizures a day. So you don't know until you try, and it's not perfect on anybody or everybody. Nothing's going to be perfect, just some ideas to try. And the same ideas kind of go with epilepsy, you know, so there's all kinds of problems with epilepsy. Make sure you're going through pathogens, and children can be very prone to the epilepsy problems. So do, be aware that these problems, these are available. So we have just a few minutes left. Maybe I've got some clients coming in, but if anybody wants to add anything else, although we did add things as we went along, is there anything else to add? Other than that, we're going to kind of be backing out of our little presentation on kids. And I want to thank Courtney. She's already started working with a thermogram client, but any other comments today? Any other ideas that we should be sharing?
Linda, this is Vicki Akers. I do have a question concerning one of my watches that it could be it's the normal tone, you know, that's supposed to be on there, but it sounds kind of like a fuzzy speaker. Do you know?
Unless it's that way on every single tone across the board. So the best way to check that is just to kind of, you know, click and make it fast forward and make a beep, 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 you know, to get different frequencies to play different songs you wouldn't know. But some of them, they'll even make a drum beat. I mean, there are some different frequencies out there.
Okay, I don't think it's on everyone, so I'm sure it's
Yeah.
just that tone.
That particular one. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yep. Any
Linda,
other? Yes. Go ahead. I know we just missed somebody. Who was that?
can you hear me,
Yes,
Linda?
now I can.
So I had trouble getting in today. I thought maybe your code had changed, and I had a friend forward and it didn't. And did you have a podcast last week?
No, I did not. And we
Oh.
did send out text and emails to that effect. I'm not saying I get them all the time myself. So I
Okay.
don't know that everybody is getting them. But yes, we did skip one last week. And I just had a comment about that. I went to Mannheim, Pennsylvania for the Reawakening America tour and got to show the WAVwatch there in a booth. And I was so thrilled because I had sent a WAVwatch to I don't know if I should mention names or not. I sent one to somebody who was a speaker, and she hadn't replied about it. And so I went over to her booth and introduced myself and said I'd sent her a WAVwatch had she been able to use it. And she said, well, it's been on my kitchen counter. I needed a little bit more help. So I was able to go through the WAVwatch with a medical doctor that was on tour with Reawaken America. So that was really exciting to me. And I got to meet some more people. I don't know if it means anything to anybody else, but to me, it was really exciting to meet some people at the Reawaken America tour. So that's why I canceled last week. So
Great.
anyway, very exciting things in our world that are happening. Changes are made. Any other comments about kids or wearing the WAVwatch? All right, we'll probably be counting down then, unless anybody has a comment. I don't know if I missed anything in the chats. Oh, I did. Somebody asked, Angela asked a comment to everyone. My 2-year-old grandson is constantly getting mosquito bites. Now, we do have a frequency for bites and stings and for actually mosquito repel. And, I look at different ideas, and I actually saw a wrist type thing that you wore for mosquitoes, and it was $40, and it had 2 frequencies to repel the mosquitoes. And all I had to do was do a little bit of research, and I found the same frequencies. I found out what this $40 tool was using, and I put the frequencies for mosquito repel and the stings and bites on my WAVwatch, and I've used that quite a bit. I do turn that up when I'm outside a bunch of mosquitoes or bugs. I'll turn it up, and I seem to be okay. I can't prove anything, but I thought that I had a lot of fun discovering the frequencies, quote unquote, for mosquito repel, and then adding them to our 850 frequencies. So you get quite a bit of bang for your buck on the WAVwatch, and just one tool to wear instead of many tools that people are doing. All right. I may have run down. Is there anybody else other than that?
I see bites and stings under kids. Is there another mosquito repel, or you're saying it's all in bites and stings?
It's probably in the self-care one. Yes,
Oh,
it is.
okay.
Now that I think about it, self-care, and there's a whole folder, like 5 or 6 different ideas, bites and stings. Yep.
Oh, yes. Yes, I see it. Thank you.
Yep. Oh, and somebody's saying, I see that your WAVwatch is on the underside of your wrist, and it does slip. Sometimes it's a little bit tighter, but it can, just so long as it's going and you can wear it. And a lot of times I'll put pull my long sleeve over it just to kind of protect it. And it lays it just a little bit closer to my skin. But it is definitely better to wear it on the left arm. Any other comments?
I have one.
Okay, Virgil.
I'm finding that I like my WAVwatch running at night. I put it in my bed, turn up the volume, and put it down around my feet or my leg and let it rip. That way my hands are free. Just something that works for me.
Anybody want to, it's your option. You just have to know to be careful with it, because with me, I'd get out of bed, kick it on the floor or something,
Yeah,
but anyway.
Anyway,
And ladies, I mean, Virgil can't do this, but ladies, we can put it in our bra if we really need to protect
you
it
guys
at some
do have
point
an
in time.
advantage, I tell you. Okay.
So it's way better than cell phones. Don't ever do that. Don't ever put your cell phone in your bra. Bad, bad, bad. Okay. So just ending on a vote of thank you so much for listening to the ideas about kids. Share it, pass it around. I really appreciate it. And this is supposed to be recorded live. So we'll hope that I got everything punched. So thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye, everybody.